Today, I want to share a case study of a woman, we'll call her Jane, with mysterious knee pain. And I'm going to use Fred to show you where she had the knee pain. Here's Fred. So Jane was having knee pain on the outside of her knee, and she could not fully bend her knee or fully straighten the knee out. Now, Jane is a very active person, runner, exercise enthusiast, was working out religiously. And this is very frustrating for her, but this happened about 5, 6 years ago. Now, you might have thought that she went to PT, which she did. She went to PT, went to surgeon, they injected her with cortisone, all this other stuff, and on and off PT for 5 years, nothing really helped. So when we saw her, I was really curious as to why she was not getting any better. So she couldn't get into child's pose, she couldn't deeply squat. When she did run, she would start having that knee pain on the outside, but didn't really know what to do. The pain didn't run down her leg or anything like that. So the first thing that I do whenever anybody comes with knee pain is I take a look at the joint above, which is the hip pelvis. And I also look at the joint below, which is the foot ankle. Because in my experience, and the research also supports this, many times issues at the knee are a result of something happening above or below. Now, when I took a look at her running gait, which is the next thing I did, I could see that she was actually running in a way that looked like she was in pain. And she was basically running, almost limping as she ran. So I took her back inside, and what we found was that, yes, her hip range of motion was a little bit limited into what we call internal rotation. So she wasn't really moving very well on the hips. But more importantly, it led me to look at her knee complex more carefully. But let me go over something real quick. So we often think that the knee just fully bends and extends, right? That is what we think of the knee. But really what happens in reality is that the knee also has to rotate at the shin a little bit. In fact, if you want to fully bend your knee, you have to get a bit of rotation happening at the knee. And if you fully want to get into extension, you also have to rotate your knee a bit at the top. This is actually a mechanism known as a screw hole mechanism. And when you can't do that fully, you know that there's an issue with rotation there. So I immediately saw her, and she was trying to turn her feet in, and on the side that was involved, she could not turn her foot in at all. It was almost stuck. And she started feeling it behind her knee, which is where she was having one side of the knee, which is where she was having pain to begin with. So what I did next? We worked on a rotation technique to improve that internal rotation so she could turn her foot in more this way. Very simple technique. Remember, 5 years she's been dealing with this. Guess what happened? She miraculously was able to bend her knee fully. In fact, she was able to get into a child's pose for the first time in 5 years. She was able to do a deep squat. She was able to run miles at a time without having that same familiar pain at her knee. And then here's the other thing that I did. I also showed her what to do at home in order to preserve that rotation. And this is part of what she did to warm up. The first technique that I reviewed with Jane, we did a self-mobilization, also known as the tibial internal rotation mobilization with movement. Basically, what we're trying to do, in very simple terms, is to help the knee to bend better by applying pressure on the side and behind the knee while securing the shin with the opposite hand and trying to turn the big toe to the 10 o'clock position on a clock face. Now at home, you can use a paper plate. Right here in the video, I have a slider. Place that paper plate on a carpet or hardwood floor. And what I want you to notice is how my elbows and my foot move in tandem. So that pressure that you apply to the top of the calf as you turn the foot should be equal to the amount of turn that you have in your foot going from the 12 o'clock position to the 10 o'clock position. The second exercise technique that I showed Jane is also a self-mobilization technique, and this is to increase knee bending. So what we do with this is place a small towel roll behind the crease of the knee, and in a child's pose position, we want to use our arms to slowly, gently sit back towards the heels while that foot is turned inward. The key here is not to reproduce sharp pain, but you might feel some dull achiness, which is less than a 3 to 4 out of 10. That is normal. For both of these exercises, I had Jane do a minute for 3 to 5 rounds throughout the day. Weeks later, she was about 95%. So within a very few sessions, she was able to get back to what she loved to do. And that's what we love about being able to spend time with our clients is sometimes the clues or the issues that we're seeing are right before our very eyes. Now, while looking at the joint is important, always looking above and below is also very important. And for runners in particular, making sure that you take them outside to do a running analysis is also key. Now, I don't know about you, but I can count the number of times in a year that I'll ever go on the treadmill. And so I know that there are a lot of PTs out there who do gait analysis on the treadmill, and it's very valuable. But most of the runners that I work with are never on the treadmill. So when they go on it, I don't think you get the most important data that you can. Instead, what I do is I'll take them outside and I'll record people how they run outside. And yes, I will also record them inside too, but I find that it's more important to see how they run outside in the natural environment. And that gives me a lot more clues as to what's actually happening. So if you're having knee pain, you've been struggling with it for a long time, and maybe you can't bend your knee fully. Maybe you can't fully extend it. Maybe you are running in pain, you can't squat, just like our friend Jane did. Make sure that someone is checking out your tibial rotation to make sure that's not a factor in what's causing you to stay in pain. But also make sure that if you're going to PT, that they are seeing how you run outside for sure, making sure that something in how you run is not what's causing the knee pain to be prolonged more than it needs to be. So I hope that was helpful. Please share in the comments what you might have done for your knee in the past if you've had any trouble with bending your knee fully or straightening it out. I'm hoping surgery wasn't the only answer. And we'll go into another case study next time about my other patient, Jane, who had persistent knee pain even after surgery. And I'll tell you the strangest thing about what it actually was. So stay tuned.